They gave her a crumbling mansion, a cruel joke, but what she unearthed within its decaying walls changed her family's fate forever. The air in the chapel hung heavy, thick with the scent of lilies and sorrow. Sarah Miller sat rigid in the front pew, her knuckles white from clenching her hands, her husband's casket a stark, polished presence just feet away. How could she breathe? The last 2 weeks had been a blur of sleepless nights and endless coffee. Her two young children, Ben and Chloe, her only anchor. Little Chloe's head was pressed against her side, while Ben, usually so lively, kept his gaze fixed on the floor. Sarah felt his fingers twitching against hers, a silent battle against tears. Then, from behind, she heard it, not the gentle, wistful laughter of shared memories, but a sharp, cutting sound. Her in-laws, their smirks were a familiar sting, always telling her she didn't truly belong. She knew what was coming. A week later, as the lawyer's office filled with the scent of old paper and the quiet click of a radiator, Sarah braced herself. One by one, her late husband's family received their inheritances: lush vacation homes, overflowing bank accounts, thriving investments. Then, a chilling pause. The lawyer cleared his throat, sliding a single tarnished key across the table. Sarah Miller, the Carter estate on Willow Lane. A snort of ugly laughter erupted from her sister-in-law. Oh, she gets the mansion. If you can even call that crumbling pile a mansion. It should have been flattened decades ago. The room filled with cruel chuckles. Sarah swallowed, her throat tight. Mansion? She'd seen pictures, broken windows, weeds consuming the porch, a roofline slumped with years of neglect. This wasn't a gift, it was a cruel joke, a punishment. As the cold key landed in her palm, she met their eyes, a chilling mix of pity and malice. She simply nodded, gathered her purse, and walked out into the biting air. Ben and Chloe trailing silently behind her. The key felt impossibly heavy, a stark symbol of her abandonment. She had nowhere else to go. Stepping onto Willow Lane for the first time, Sarah realized the old estate didn't just look abandoned. It looked utterly defeated. The iron gates hung askew, one hinge broken. Ivy, thick and menacing, seemed to choke the very stone pillars. With a long, aching groan, the gates protested as she pushed them open. Ben's sneakers crunched on gravel and shattered glass as he stepped over the cracked path. Chloe clung to her backpack strap, eyes wide. The mansion's windows were obscured by layers of grime, the front door swollen in its frame. Sarah had to throw her entire body into it before it finally groaned open. Inside, the air was thick, damp, heavy with the smell of trapped wood and decades of dust. Wallpaper peeled in sickly curls, revealing dark stains. The grand chandelier in the entryway hung precariously, missing crystals like broken teeth. She found one room where the floor felt somewhat stable, and there they unrolled their sleeping bags. That night, the wind howled through unseen gaps, pushing against the cracked walls, and something scurried in the ceiling above. Days bled into a slow, grinding rhythm. Sarah tirelessly scrubbed mold from kitchen tiles, patched a broken window with cardboard, and hung blankets to ward off the chill. She took on odd cleaning jobs in town, returning with aching hands and just enough money for meager groceries. The neighbors avoided her gaze, and her in-laws remained silent, as if waiting for the mansion and Sarah to finally crumble. Yet, every night, staring at the ceiling, Sarah whispered the same defiant promise. She wouldn't leave. Not yet. Then, one quiet Sunday afternoon, as the rain finally ceased, leaving the house damp and cold, a voice echoed from above. "Mom, you have to see this." It was Ben. Sarah climbed the creaking attic stairs, each step threatening to give way. The air up there was thick with dust motes dancing in the meager light, filtering through broken roof tiles. Ben was crouched by a beam, tracing faint but deliberate numbers and symbols etched into the wood. Some looked like coordinates, others like strange shorthand. Sarah knelt beside him, her fingers tracing the mysterious grooves. They were too precise to be random, too purposeful for mere childish scribbles. Her late husband had once shared whispered stories about his family's shipping empire. In the early 1900s, tales of records kept off the books. She remembered the peculiar glint in his eyes when he spoke of it, half pride, half something unreadable. She snapped a quick photo with her phone, not knowing why, just a gut feeling. That night, with Chloe nestled beside her, the image haunted her. Why hide something in the attic? Why codes? The next day, Sarah saw the house not as a burden but as a silent keeper of secrets. Still, she dared not hope there was anything truly valuable. Not yet. The codes nagged at her for days. Every time she cleaned a wall or cleared a room, her eyes darted to the floorboards, the baseboards, searching, wondering. One damp morning, she decided to tackle the dining room. The threadbare carpet, stained dark near the far wall, curled at the edges. As she pulled it back, her fingers brushed against it, a small, subtle gap in the wood. The boards didn't quite match. Kneeling, she ran her fingers along the seam, dust puffing around her. With the edge of a butter knife, she pried at it. The board lifted, revealing a square of iron bolted into the floor. Her heart leaped. It wasn't large, perhaps 2 feet across, but it was heavy, sealed by rusted bolts. She found an old wrench in the shed, each twist a laborious grate against her palms. Hours passed, her wrists aching, until the final bolt clanged free. A trapdoor. When she pulled it open, a rush of stale, dry, metallic air rose up from below. A narrow stone staircase spiraled down into oppressive shadow. The scent was distinct, ancient, like time itself had stagnated. Flashlight in hand, she took the first tentative step. The stone walls were cold, beaded with moisture. Each echo of her footfall was swallowed by the impenetrable darkness. The staircase ended in a small circular chamber. Along the walls stood rows of dusty wooden racks. But they weren't for wine. Instead, heavy, iron-banded chests. Their locks tarnished but intact, rested where bottles should have been. Rolled canvases, brittle with age, leaned in a corner. Her breath hitched. This wasn't just storage. This was a deliberate concealment. Sarah didn't open a single thing that day. She simply stood there, her heart hammering, the realization dawning. This, whatever it was, could be the turning point for her children's lives. But she needed certainty before she allowed herself to hope. Sleep eluded Sarah that night. Every creak, every groan from the old house seemed amplified. The images of those chests in the cellar haunted her. Did her in-laws even know, or had they simply forgotten? The next morning, she called in sick to her cleaning job. Ben and Chloe were at school, leaving her alone in the quiet, expectant mansion. Flashlight ready, she descended the narrow steps to the cellar once more. The air felt cooler today, almost like a vault. She knelt before the first chest, brushing away decades of dust. With a few determined strikes from the wrench, the lock crumbled. Inside, gold coins. Not just a few, but layers upon layers, gleaming even in the weak beam of her light, their edges smooth with the patina of centuries. Museum pieces. The next chest was even heavier. Prying it open revealed stacks of thick, yellowed paper. Old stock certificates, bonds from obscure rail companies she'd only read about in history books, each with its embossed seal, still perfectly intact. In the far corner, she untied one of the rolled canvases. The paper crackled as she carefully unwrapped it, revealing an exquisite oil painting of a 19th century harbor. Sails, masts, storm clouds, signed by an artist she recognized instantly from a book she'd devoured years ago. Sarah sank back, her hands trembling. This wasn't just valuable, this was history. A fortune sitting right beneath her feet while her family sneered, dismissing the place as worthless. A week later, an appraiser from the city walked through the cellar, his eyes wide, murmuring to himself in awe. By the time he left, a number was seared into Sarah's mind, $150 million. In total value, and every single item was legally hers. Sarah didn't cry immediately. She sat in the silence, letting the staggering figures sink in, feeling the immense weight of despair lift, replaced by something entirely new: control. For the first time since her husband's death, she wasn't a guest in someone else's world. She held the keys now. 3 months later, the mansion was unrecognizable. Fresh, soft cream paint graced its walls, windows gleamed, and the roof stood proudly against the sky. Workers bustled across the lawn, meticulously trimming hedges and laying elegant stone paths where weeds once reigned supreme. Sarah stood on the front steps, elegant in a tailored navy coat, her hair impeccably pulled back, her children beaming beside her. Behind them, the grand double doors awaited, poised to open to the public for the first time in half a century. Reporters crowded the driveway, cameras flashing, and there, lurking at the back of the crowd, were her in-laws, their faces stiff with forced smiles. They hadn't been invited, but of course they had come, drawn by the irresistible scent of money and attention. When her moment arrived, Sarah took the microphone, her voice steady, resonant. "This house," she began, "was handed to me as a burden." Her gaze swept over the crowd, landing briefly on her in-laws. "Today, it stands as undeniable proof that true value is never determined by those who lack the vision to see it." She cut the ribbon. Applause swelled. Cameras clicked relentlessly. Ben and Chloe stepped forward with her, and the massive doors swung open, revealing the breathtaking, restored interior, gleaming floors, the chandelier sparkling like a galaxy, the air rich with the scent of polished wood. Her in-laws didn't dare move closer. They didn't have to. Sarah met their eyes, held them for a beat, and smiled. Not a smile of spite, but one of profound liberation. She no longer needed their approval. The mansion was hers, its history was hers, and its incredible legacy would be her children. They thought they had cursed her with a burden, but she had transformed it into an empire.